The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Monday afternoon. 3 shows in a row. 3 shows in a row. We'll see. We're talking politics today, so of course we'll see if the numbers go up as a consequences. Yes, AIM, you are on time. Cool. Let's see. Bunch of stuff going on. I just did television. Haven't done television in a long time. Just did television by Zoom, a debate. It was like 6.5 minute debate with this professor at University of Chicago talking about inequality. So that was kind of fun. It's actually on probably in 40 minutes. They'll be broadcasting it on TV in Chicago. So if you're in Chicago, turn it on. You'll be able to see it. You can also watch it online. I'll probably post it up to my website or post a link to it once it is live. So I did this event for somebody, and I get an email from them saying, well, I'll just read it to you. This is a survey about diversity and inclusion. And so they say, I'm not going to give their name, XXX is in the process of examining and improving its diversity and inclusion. As a part of this, we're reviewing the voices within our stories and segments, with the goal of making our topic stories, interviewees, and guests more reflective of the city involved. If you feel comfortable doing so. It's so nice. We ask that you take a moment to share some information regarding your identity and background so that we can develop a baseline understanding of where we are at and how we can improve. Now, okay, the form is anonymous. It won't be associated with you or your email and is completely voluntary. You can fill in as much or as little of the form as you wish. Thank you for your consideration. All right. So what's the form? What do they want to know? What, my areas of expertise, my experience, anything like that? No. They want to know my age. They want to know my race. They want to know my gender identity. Is that at birth or by choice? I guess by choice. They want to know my sexual orientation. They want to know what neighborhood I'm from. Right? I mean, it's truly unbelievable. Right? So they are now going to divide these programs or whatever they do based on some kind of diversity of race. This is one way to combat racism, is to ask everybody what race they are and to identify them as that race. That'll go a long way to solve the racist issue. Gender identity. So they want a diversity of genders, and I guess there are 92 of them. So if there's an expert on economics, are they going to find one of each type of the 92 and give them equal time? Or are they going to weight this by their percentage in the population? Or how do you do this? Sexual orientation. I guess if we want diversity of ideas, we bet, because your view of X is going to be different, of anything. It's going to be different based on what your sexual orientation is, your gender identity, your race, your age. And this is going to get worse, guys. This is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's going to be everywhere. It's going to be every activity in our lives. Everything is going to be, we're going to be asked these questions that are offensive, disgusting, insulting, and irrelevant to anything important about our lives. So, all right, now we got that out of the way, the fun stuff. All right, I'm not going to talk a lot about COVID and the election, but we'll talk a little bit about that separately, I guess because Trump had COVID, so they're related somewhat. And then I'm going to take a video. The video is called Grading is Capitalist Conditioning. capitalist conditioning. I guess this is based on the work of, my favorite economist, Richard Wolff, about how grading in school is anti-socialism and that it conditions people to be not slaves, laborers, which is almost slaves, according to him, under capitalism. So it's all about conditioning. So those are going to be the topics, a little bit about COVID, a little bit about the election, and this is a 19-minute video. I don't know how much we'll get through of it, but if I actually commented on every minute of it, we'd be here till tomorrow. So we'll see how far we get with the video about grading. We'll also do some super chat. I've got a lag. I've got from yesterday. I've got stuff from or the day before yesterday, and then I've got stuff from a week ago, or whatever, that I promised to do. So I'll get to those as well. So we'll try to catch up on some super chats. So I'm not gonna be able to comment on every aspect of the grading as capitalist conditioning as much as I'd want to, because it is from beginning to end an unbelievable travesty and unbelievable. Ugh. But it reflects a lot about the state of the world in which we are. Okay. Before I go on, don't forget before you leave to like the show. Whenever you leave, some of you leave early, some of you stay late, but please click on the like button. It's easy to do. It doesn't require any effort. Of course, don't do it if you don't like the show. Only do it if it's consistent with your views and consistent with your morality. Let's see. We've also got, I don't know why it does this. Problems with the copying the super chat over to my Word document. All right. Then don't forget to do that. Of course, you can use the super chat to ask questions. The bigger dollar amount you put on the super chat, the more likely it is for me to answer. And of course, you'll be supporting the show in a more significant manner. Last month, the last few months have been pretty rich when it comes to super chat. So let's not make October any different. I've noticed some of my whales are not around anymore. I don't know. When Derek was around, he managed to rile up the whales and get them to give gazillions of dollars on the super chat. So I don't have obviously the same skills as Derek had. I'm missing Simon from Iceland. He always livened things up with his very, very, very generous support on the super chat. But hopefully, some of you are there and you will support the show that way. Of course, if you want to support the show monthly, which is my preferred way, then please do so on YaronBrookShow.com/support, on Patreon, on Subscribestar, or on Locals. And all of that is greatly appreciated, no matter where you make the contribution. You support the show, you make it happen, you make it possible, and you make it possible for us to continue to improve, to do more marketing, to grow the channel, to grow the audience, to bring in guests, and everything else. So please, and of course, in a time of COVID, where I'm not traveling to give talks, where there are basically no talks, although I am traveling Thursday, I'm flying to New York. It is a main source of revenue. So this is how I'm making a living these days. I will be going to New York on Thursday. I'm flying to New York on Thursday, giving a talk in Connecticut to real people, not in front of a computer, not on Zoom. It's going to be so cool to see and interact with real live 3-dimensional human beings. So I'm giving a talk in Connecticut on Friday. Then I'm flying right back to California the next day. And then I'm going to be in California for a few days. And then I fly back to Puerto Rico. So crazy schedule, but it works well, because if I fly from Puerto Rico to Connecticut to New York, then I have to quarantine for 14 days. And if I fly from California to Connecticut, I don't have to quarantine for 14 days. So it's good. Yes. I'm very, very, very excited about the opportunity to actually speak to live people. And it's always a good group. It's always a lot of fun. I'm talking about capitalism. One of 2 talks I'll give to them. This one is about the capitalism as a system, and the next one is about the morality of capitalism. All right, Jonathan asks, aren't you supposed to be in Chicago tonight? I was in Chicago earlier today, and I'm back in California, and you'll be able to see me in Chicago in about 30 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. You will see that. What's that? What's the fight? There's a fight? I don't see a fight. Where's the fight? All right, so you can see that on whatever channel it is in Chicago. I put a link up on Twitter, so you can see me debating a University of Chicago professor on the issue of inequality. Even he did not have to go into the studio. Everything is now by Zoom. I was complaining at that at the beginning of the show, Jonathan. If you'd come on time, you'd know that. All right. Yeah, let's jump into it. Let's talk about COVID. Oh my God, lots of low-priced questions. I love you all, but I don't love you all equally. I love the $20 and above questions more than I do the $5 ones, but I'm getting a bunch of $5 ones again. I guess we need to create some competition. Somebody has to ask a $20 question so they get priority, so there's a little bit of competition. It goes on. All right. COVID. This is, I haven't done much on COVID in months now, right? I spent I think I counted, I did 28 shows on COVID or something like that. And it was March, April, May. It's just enough. So I basically said, I'm not doing any more COVID. It's enough. I'm sick and tired of this. Everything I said, I stand by. Everything I said would go wrong has gone wrong. Indeed, it's gone worse than I expected it to. I expected at least the states to have their act together in terms of testing, tracing, isolating. And the panic, the hysteria, just the absurdity of what's going on in the United States and in Europe is just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Shockingly, since over the summer and now into the fall, caseloads are up and cases are going to continue to be up. Now, there are two reasons for this. One is we're testing more, so you discover more. Second is people are out, people are engaged, people are going to restaurants, people are doing stuff, and they're going to get infected. Now, most of the people getting infected seem to be young people. And if young people get infected, my response to that is, who cares? Who cares that young people are infected? So, because the fact is, death rates for young people from COVID, and the younger you are, the lower the death rate is, are lower than the flu, are lower than a lot of causes of death. Jennifer asked, will I wear a mask when speaking in Connecticut? No. I hope not. I'm not going if I have to wear a mask. I'll ask them. But no, I'm not wearing a mask. It's going to be in a tent, so it's going to be outdoors. And, they're taking a risk by being there, and I'm not going to. I assume there's going to be socially distancing. I assume the tables will be farther away from me. I'm not going to be shaking hands and hugging anybody, but I am not speaking with a mask on. Wow, if they forced me to do that, that would be horrific. I mean, I've said this from the beginning. I'm gonna do as much traveling as I can given the circumstances. I'm gonna go and speak. I'm gonna do what I do, and I'll wear a mask where it makes sense to wear a mask. I'll probably wear a mask after I speak when I'm mingling with people. I think it makes sense, but I'm not that worried about getting COVID. The probability of getting it is low. The probability of dying of it are very, 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 very low. It's more likely that I get killed in a traffic accident on the way to the airport than it is for me to die from COVID. Now, maybe I'm exaggerating because I'm a little older than a lot of other people, but it is what it is, right? So, and then people say, oh, there are bad side effects and everything. Okay, yeah, life has has the potential to inflict pain and suffering on you, but these things happen. You don't seek them out, but you don't stop living to avoid the risk. So you make common sense choices. You wear a mask where it makes sense to wear a mask. You don't wear a mask where it doesn't make sense to wear a mask. And you continue living. And if you're 80-something years old, 82.4, I think, is the global average age of death. 82.4. I mean, that's pretty old. And if you're in your 70s and 80s, then I say be careful. Be really careful. And if you have loved ones who are in their 70s and 80s, don't go see them. Socially distance, wear a mask, get a test before you go see them. I've got a friend here who's 87 years old, and every time I go see him, I get a test. So I've been tested 4 times in the last 6 weeks, 4 times, all negative. And I do it the day before I go. And I know that the viral load, even if I have it, is low, so I'm not going to infect him. And I mean, it's just simple common sense stuff, and you can live your life, and you can hang out, and you can do stuff. Because you now know. You now know that you're not going to infect anybody. So, COVID is a risk for some people. If you're obese, if you got diabetics, be careful. But it's your choice. You should be careful. To shut me down, to shut down the economy, as they're now doing again in England, as they're starting to do in France, and as they're still doing in some parts of the United States, is ludicrous, nuts, insane. And indeed, the empirical evidence seems to suggest that, maybe it makes sense for a short period of time to shut down when you're trying to flatten the curve for hospitals. But other than that, it doesn't seem to have a huge impact. Florida, which has an elderly population, people go to Florida when they retire, is mostly open, and it's not been that bad. And again, if you look at death rates are nowhere near what they were in March and April. And the reason is twofold, I think. And again, I'm not an epidemiologist, so this is to the best of my knowledge. One, it's that people are getting it are young, and therefore unlikely to go to hospital and unlikely to die. We basically, I mean, it's horrible to say this, but a lot of the older people who were susceptible to this got it and died. There are fewer older people. Now, we're also doing a better job protecting those old people. We've learned our lesson. We're not taking people with COVID from hospital and sending them back to the nursing home from which they came to infect all the other patients so they can all die, which is just horrific that was done. It was done in England. It was done in New York. It was done in New Jersey. It was done in other places. Old people now know that this is a danger to them, so they're being careful. They're taking, God forbid, personal responsibility for their own health and not to take on too much risk. So fewer people are dying because the age of people getting it has shifted to being more young, or at least we've identifying it as more young because we're also testing more. And second, we're getting better at treating it. We're getting better at much better at treating it. Remdesivir, I think that's the way you pronounce it. The drug that's been around for now, that was originally, I think, developed for something else, but then was resurrected when COVID hit. I think for Ebola it was originally designed. It's turning out to be much better, much more efficacious than the initial studies revealed, and is actually reducing death rates, reducing the need for respirators, reducing the need to treat people in intensive care. So remdesivir seems to be doing a much better job than was expected. And we also understand how to deal with respirators. We understand how to, when people should be on respirators, when they shouldn't be, what poses of the body, generally how to treat. There is this drug that also is a anti-inflammatory steroid, and the steroid is very efficacious in reducing deaths. So somebody has a very serious case can get this, and it's done a very good job at reducing death. And you've got these experimental treatments like these antibody treatments that have been shown both in the United States, and I've seen studies out of Israel, that they're they have the potential to be very, very significant in terms of contributing to treating COVID. So there's also that. So, okay, cool it, relax. I mean, the chances of dying have gone down a lot and will continue to go down a lot as treatments get better, as more of these drugs get distributed. I mean, right now, if you want to get the best treatment in the world for COVID, you have to be president of the United States. He got everything. He got the kitchen sink thrown at him. He got the steroid, he got the remdesivir, and he got the antibody treatment. And like, none of you could get the antibody treatment. I couldn't get the antibody treatment because the FDA hasn't approved it yet. And yet they give it to the president. So it's anyway, it's frustrating the way people are dealing with this. It's frustrating that these treatments are not coming online faster. It's frustrating that people are still panicked and hysterical and irrational and destroying their lives and all of our lives because of their panic and hysteria and fear. And the fact is, a majority of Americans seem to want more lockdowns, more constraints, more. Come on, people. Take care of yourself. Take responsibility for your own life. Go out there and live. And the one thing that we could be doing better is, of course, testing. And there are tests out there that you could have at home, cost you $1 a test, that you could lick a piece of paper and within a few minutes tell, within maybe 15 minutes tell if you've got COVID or not. If you had it, you wouldn't go out. You wouldn't go and visit your elderly relative. If you didn't have it, you'd stay home. Now, it's not super accurate, so it only gives you a high load, but that's when you're infectious. So again, I've talked about this. It's so frustrating that the FDA won't approve this. We've been talking about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. Why won't the FDA let us test ourselves at home? Because they're fascist bureaucrats who want to tell us how to live and what to do. And they want a doctor or nurse to be there when we get a positive or negative result. Why? We're adults. Let us take responsibility for our own lives. Give us the tools to do that. And it's not like the FDA needs to invent these tools. These tools exist. Private companies have created these tools. All they have to do is free them up so that we can trade with them in win-win relationship and get that tool for ourselves so we can use it. And then we can decide when we should or shouldn't go out. And if you're positive, COVID positive, you shouldn't go out. You should stay home. Yes, President Bush, you should stay. President Bush. President Obama, you should stay home as long as you're infectious. So, I mean, everybody's response to this is pathetic. I mean, there are people out there saying, no, you should never get tested. Why wouldn't you get tested? If the test is going to tell you if you're infectious, why wouldn't you get tested? You want to make it as easy as possible to test yourself. Yeah, Wanda Freeman says vitamin D. Yeah, I mean, vitamin D is something that is probably good for you anyway. Most of us have vitamin D deficiency, and it boosts the immune system. So it's going to help you fight COVID if you get it. So why not take a vitamin D supplement? I've talked about that as well. I think Matt Ridley is strong and has seen strong research suggesting that vitamin D really helps. And that's easy. I wouldn't take 2,000, I would take 5,000. because most of us are way, way, way vitamin D deficient. Particularly if you don't live in a sunny place. So all of you who live in a place like Michigan, God forbid, you should be taking a lot of vitamin D because you're not getting a lot of sun, particularly starting now onwards. So you should be taking it anyway. Anyway, I'm not giving medical advice because I'm not a doctor. So let's chill about COVID. Take it seriously in your own life. Take it seriously in how you act. Take it seriously how you engage with other people. But tell the politicians to lay off, to leave us alone, to let us as individuals make individual choices, individual value decisions about our own lives. As I've said before, it was never in all the kind of in all the projections about how we would deal with the pandemic, lockdowns were never an option. And they should not be an option. And they are not an option. So tell these bastards to get their hands off so that we can decide whether we want to go to work. We can decide whether we want to open our business. Can decide whether we want to hang out with friends, which friends. And we should, I think morally, test ourselves if we think there is a chance we could infect somebody who is in a risky group. But that should be your choice. You know, a friend has diabetes. Get tested. And don't go in crowds without a mask, just hanging out, because you might infect somebody who can't handle it. So all it requires is wearing a mask, which is not a big deal, or just distance yourself from other people. So common sense. Well, not common sense. Reason. Think it through. Think it through. Right. So, all right. I mean, there's a lot to say about this. I see so much distortion of the use of statistics out there constantly. People don't know what they're talking about. People who think they're doctors who don't know statistics. People who are statisticians who don't know anything about medicine. People who are neither statisticians nor doctors who think they're both. It's stunning to me, the inability of people, even good people, even smart people, even rational people generally. It's stunning to me the inability of people to think in probabilities, to think in terms of likely outcome. Likely outcome, right? And, and again, if only we could test ourselves, we'd solve our problem. And we don't need the government to tell us to test. It's in our self-interest to test. I think most people. I do worry about the people who refuse to do that. All right. Let's see. So that's COVID. Okay, let me see if there's any COVID questions here. That's not COVID. 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 Oh wait. Elections. I don't know why I do this to myself. I really don't want to talk about the elections, but I figured you guys are much more interested in this than I am. But and I'm not sure why you're so interested in what I think about the elections. I mean, I'm a market guy, and I like the odds makers, and the odds makers right now are basically 85-15 for Biden. So if you believe Trump is going to win, then you could make a lot of money by going into the betting markets and betting on Trump. And you see, that's when I would really know you really think Trump was win, because talk is cheap. But I want to see you put some of your hard-earned dollars into the betting market and bet on it. But 2016, Cook says. But yes, you think you're the only one who knows about 2016? You think the people who are putting big bucks on the trade right now don't know about 2016? Is 2016 a secret that only you know about? I think there's a lot of smart money. Well, if Trump is going to win big, then I suggest you take $1,000 and put it down. What's it? 17-3 are the odds. You would make a lot of money. you would make a lot of money. What's that? Almost 6x your money if you did that. So again, talk is cheap. I want, by next show, I want all the people that put real money in the betting market on Trump to let me know. Right? If you think the betting market doesn't know 2016 happened, if you think the smarter statisticians and the pollsters don't know that 2016 happened and they're not adjusting for that, then I think you're missing the point. At this point, this 15% probability he wins is still 15%, right? Some 15% of the time, 15 out of 100 times, the thing that has 15% probability actually happens. So I'm not saying there's no chance that Trump can win. But right now, it's the probability is what it is. It's 85 to 15 based on people actually putting money in on either candidate, betting with their dollars, not just with their votes or with their mouths. And I'm sure some of those people are voting for Trump but betting on Biden because that's the safe bet. Right? So I think Trump is going to lose. I think there's a good chance Trump loses in a landslide, that he loses by a lot. Now, what really worries me about this, is that if he does lose in a landslide, by the way, the 2016 polls never had it, and the 2016 betting markets never had it at 85 to 15. They were more like 60-40, 65-35. But they were not anywhere close to 85-15. And actually, some of the statisticians are saying it's 86-13 with a 1 in 100 chance of a tie. That's what some of the simulations are giving us. Michigan, which somebody posted and said that an internal Republican poll says tied, according to the people who do this for a living, probability-wise, they're giving Biden 91% chance of winning Michigan. So I think there's a really good chance that this is a huge victory for Biden. And the real scary part of this, there's all kinds of polling, and the good statisticians weigh the different polls based on what kind of a poll it is. So there are polls that are better and polls that are bad, and then they weight them. So again, I think the statisticians have learned something for 2016. They don't want to be seen as fools again. Again, there is a 15% chance that they will be, that Trump wins. But it's unlikely. So, what is the scary part about him losing in a landslide? The real scary part about that is that if he does, Republicans are very likely to lose the Senate. Right now, I think the odds of Republicans losing the Senate are 60-40, maybe 65-35, depending on where you look. There are a number of races in which it looks like Republicans are going to lose, or at least they're too close to call. And that is scary. So the thing that scares me is Democrats. Democrats are likely to increase their majority in the House. So if they increase their majority in the House, take the Senate and win the presidency, we're in deep trouble. We're in deep trouble at least for 2 years until the country can fix it, which is something that I think, which is something that could happen. Frank says the fly on Pence's head is what leads him to think that Biden is going to win. No, I mean, a coronavirus is why I think Biden's going to win. I think Trump's incompetence during this crisis is so evident, even voters can see it. They don't need to listen to you on Book Show. Although I know some of you are not convinced. But I've been talking about it since February, how pathetic his response has been. So I hope that it's only 2 years if they have the majority, but I hope. So this is my, I guess, ask of you guys. I don't really care who you vote for president. Your business. And I don't care. I really do care I really urge you, I really encourage you, even if it's a Republican you despise, to vote Republican for the Senate. To vote Republican for the Senate and maybe the House, so that the Democrats don't get this sweep and they don't get this idea that their agenda has been given a huge mandate by the voters. You see, if Trump loses in a landslide, but if Republicans maintain the Senate and maybe hold onto their seats in the House or maybe increase a little bit their seats in the House, I don't think they can win a majority there. Then the message is, we hated Trump. Trump was incompetent. Trump was bad. But we're not buying into this Democratic agenda. That would be a good message. That would be a really, really good message. All right. So that's where I am on the election. I don't have much more to say about that. I don't think that the fly is what did it. I think the first debate, I think, hurt Trump. I think his arrogance with regard to COVID and his own diagnosis of COVID hurt Trump. I think that everything he's done since February has basically hurt him. Not because I dislike Trump, but just because that's what it looks like to me in terms of polls, in terms of people's response, in terms of what people have taken from it. All right. I really appreciate it if you would like the show before you leave, and now's a good time so you don't forget. We've got over 140 people watching live, 68 likes. Now, of course, you can do a thumbs down if you don't like it, but please do a thumbs up if you do like it. So that should be over 100 likes there, and don't forget to share shows, and of course, don't forget to support shows. And the best way right now to support the show is by using Super Chat. Anything over $20 gets priority, and the higher the Super Chat number, the higher the priority is. I think everybody so far who's gone $20 has gone $20. There's nobody. I don't think anybody's done more than $20. So I don't think I'm committed to anybody more than I've marked the $20 one. So I'm going to do those now, and then we'll go to this grading is capitalist conditioning, where I will ridicule the egalitarians for the BS that they actually represent and the evil that they represent. All right, like the show, thumbs up. Another 20, and we're over 100, and I'll be happy, and I'll leave you alone. But I think you can express yourself by liking, by doing a like. It's not that hard, and that way you won't forget before you leave. All right, let's take some of these questions, I guess, in the order that they came in on the $20 ones. Oh my God, really? This is the question you want to ask? All right, this is an inside baseball question, right? Craig Biddle says you and Onkar have been plotting to destroy TOS because you don't like the way he criticized one of Onkar's article. That is completely and utterly bogus. That is a lie. That is absolutely ridiculous. That has never been true. So that argument as you presented, and I don't know if that's true. If Craig Biddle said that I and Onkar have been plotting to destroy TOS because of this, that is an out and out lie because of some article that we didn't like how it was edited. So you can quote me on that being complete disinformation, a complete faking reality. I would also add that the two of us have never plotted to destroy TOS. We have not had a relationship with TOS. We have not cooperated with TOS since 2010. So for 10 years now. It had nothing to do with criticizing one of Onkar's articles. It had everything to do with the fact that Craig Biddle wrote a piece condemning Leonard Peikoff, condemning his behavior as immoral, which I thought was exhibited a lack of understanding of the application of the objectives of morality. It exhibited a lack of understanding of context and was a bold attack on, one of the people I value most in life. And you're going to attack my friends. I am not going to deal with you. That's simple. Not going to deal with you. So it's just not true. But even then, I did not plot to destroy TOS. That is completely bogus. And and the reasoning, I just gave you the reasoning. The reasoning is simple. Craig Biddle exhibited, displayed a lack of judgment. He displayed a lack of understanding, I think, of the application of the objectives of morality. We stopped hiring to speak about ethics, given that he just displayed he doesn't know how to apply it. And I stopped writing for the magazine, and so did everybody at the Institute, because Leonard Peikoff's awesome, and if you attack Leonard Peikoff, I don't want to have anything to do with you. So I don't see. Okay, that's my take on that. You do with it as you will. As I said, inside baseball. Answered that one. Why do dogs get jealous if no one's taught them jealousy? Does this suggest envy is partly in our genetic makeup for survival purposes? No. Envy is a complex emotion. Envy is an emotion that requires judgment and evaluation. So we are born with the capacity to be jealous. We are born with the capacity to envy. But to envy and to be jealous for human being depends on evaluation. You're not automatically jealous. You're not automatically envious. It depends on the circumstances. And as you change your ideas, as you change your philosophy, as you change your values, what you are jealous of is going to change. So it's not that we're conditioned to envy other people because they're good. No, we have the capacity to envy, and then we choose based on our choices of values, based on our view of other people. We will either engage with that potentiality or not. Right? We have the chemicals and the neural pathways to create the sense of envy. But it only happens if we make certain decisions about certain things, come to certain conclusions about certain things, evaluate and esteem people in certain ways. And if we don't, that never gets engaged. And the same thing about jealousy. Now, jealousy and envy are very different. You can be jealous, but jealous does not mean you wish somebody else harm. Jealous, you might be jealous of somebody else's car, but you don't wish them harm. You just say, I'd love to have a car like that. You might be jealous of your spouse. You don't want other men, hanging out with her. Now, that can be rational or that can be irrational. And it's going to depend on your conclusions, your values, your estimate of her and these other people will determine whether that emotion gets activated, gets engaged, whether you feel it, right? So it's not wired into us that we should be jealous or we will be envious in these circumstances. The circumstances are what we create, Again, the circumstances are based on our evaluations and our judgment and our choices. I know Leonard Peikoff has talked about Halloween, but did Ayn Rand have anything to say about Halloween? I don't know. I don't think so. It's fun. Halloween is fun. I mean, I don't like scary stuff. I don't like horror movies and stuff. But Halloween is just fun. It's to see those little kids dressed up is a lot of fun. I don't particularly like the trick-or-treating. Trick-or-treating is a bit, it's a bit like the government, right? You either give me your money or we're gonna I don't know, spray paint your house or do something bad to you. So I don't like this trick or treat where if you don't give me a treat, I'm gonna trick you. That I think is blackmail, and we shouldn't allow our kids to do that. So, but handing out candy and doing stuff like that, that's fun. And I love seeing everybody dressed up. That to me is the fun part. It's not begging, it's intimidation. I don't dress up. I haven't dressed up in I guess since 2000, there was a millennium party where I think we dressed up. I can't remember what I dressed up as. Wow, I have no idea what I dressed up. It was like the millennial party, and I don't remember what I dressed up as. What's your, $20 questions. Get a logo and engage with online community debate. Bro culture is annoying. Bro culture, I don't know what bro culture is. You have to send me a link with some bro culture so I know what to engage in. But it is what it is. Invite yourself on other online shows and destroy them with facts and logic. Much respect for all your work. I'm on online shows all the time. I was on television today. I'll go to anywhere where they'll invite me pretty much. I'll do anybody's show, even without. I just did a show that has 600,000 subscribers last week. You know, the Lex Friedman show. So, I do that. I've got a logo. There's a logo somewhere, the Yaron Brook Show logo. And, but I'm not going to spend my time online going to people, and I just don't do that. It's just not, I don't have time. I've got other parts of my life. You guys can do it and tell those idiots to come and debate me. That is, tell those people to invite me on their shows so that I can debate them. That'll be fun, right? So, all right. We did the inside baseball question. That's good. If you want more inside baseball questions, I'll answer some of them, but you have to put up. You have to put up. But don't believe everything you read on the internet. And don't believe me. You don't have to believe me. You know, what I said before is, it's he said, she said. So you guys have to make decisions about what makes sense to you, who's right or wrong, or whether it's relevant to your life and whether you care. And if you don't know about the Leonard Peikoff thing, then and the question is, do you care about it? I know Craig has taken it offline, but he's never retracted it, and he's never apologized for it. So when he does, I've always said, when Craig, I used to say this, now he's done other things that have pissed me off, so I'm not sure I can forgive him. But if he says, I'm sorry, I was mistaken, that was wrong, wow, that would go a long way to fixing things. But he's never offered to do that. I've asked him to do that. We've asked him to do it many, many times. People have explained it to him, discussed it with him. So, well, again, you want to ask more questions? Put some money on it. Put some money on it. All right. All right, we got a bunch of super chat questions. Of course, I'll take more, but let's do this video. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. All right. I mean, just look at this guy. I mean, it's going to be fun, right? I mean, is this bro culture? You're going to have to tell me if this is actually bro culture or this is just woke culture, or this is just, whenever I see these videos, I think, oh no, they're kidding. This is a satire. This is a satire of the position. Right? And so let's listen, right? Oh, I need headphones because I need to hear this too. All right. So the issue here is grading. Should kids be graded in school? Okay, before I do this, 8 more people like the show. We got to get 8 more people to like the show so we go over 100, because it's pretty pathetic. We've only got 90 so far. Unless you hate the show and you don't like the show and you don't want to give it a thumbs up, then I understand. But if you kind of like it, you enjoy it, there's some fun, there's some interesting stuff here, then please just press that like button, thumbs up. It's so easy. You can do it on your phone. You can do it wherever you're watching this right now. Please do it. The value of doing these live is that I can bug you and get those numbers up, because it helps the algorithm. It helps the algorithm. No, I'm not torturing you. You're torturing me. If you guys click the frigging button, then I wouldn't have to bug you about it. Just do it. Like, that's the Nike ad? Just do it. Oh, there we go. 1 thumbs down. 2 thumbs down. You see, they're coming out of the woodwork. That's good. All right. We crossed 100. Thank you. Oh, the thumbs down went away. Switch to a thumbs up. Come on. All right. I love it when people click the wrong button. Here we go. This is, who is this guy? Ryan Hibbs. It's called Grading as Capitalist Conditioning. 46,000 views. And by the way, just so you don't think I've got this thing about thumbs up, 9.2 thousand thumbs up, 258 thumbs down. So one thing you can do is you can find this video and go give it a thumbs down. This is grading is capitalist conditioning. Don't even watch it. Just give it a thumbs down. That way it doesn't get the count, right? 46,000 views, 9,000 plus likes. And this is the world in which we live, my friends. Whoops, it's muted. That's not good. Let's rewind, unmute. Go.
Hello, Internet. Today we're talking about the way that our education system is shaped to help students internalize capitalist ideology.
Imagine if that were true. Imagine an educational system that actually allowed people to internalize capitalism. Whoa, what a wonderful world we would live in. How do you internalize capitalism? You'd have to think it through. You'd have to create certain habits that are associated with capitalism.
Specifically, I want to talk about the practice of grading. Grading teaches students that people are unequal and can
Yeah. Grading teaches students that people are unequal. I mean, this is where I thought it was a parody. Because, and we've only done 15 seconds and I'm already going at it. They're unequal. You're unequal in your work ethic. You're unequal in your skill and ability. You're unequal in your intelligence. People are, hate to tell you this, people, you're not equal. And no matter what you do, you'll never be equal. I'll say this again. The only place in which equality matters is equality of freedom, equality of rights, equality before the law. Any other equality is bogus fantasy for the Borg, not for human beings. Just look around any room. Look at this guy. He's not equal. He's different than everybody else. Maybe he's a math whiz. I don't know. But he does prettier videos than me. We're not equal in video making. His is better. Not equal.
can be objectively, quantitatively ranked.
I wonder if you can quantitatively rank people's ability in addition and subtraction. You think you can quantitatively rank people? Yeah. Some people get all the answers right. Some people get 50% of the answers right. That's pretty objective. It corresponds to reality. Now, if you think 2 plus 2 equals 5, you've got a problem. But no, math, for example. Now, it's difficult to be objective about every subject, but that's the job of the teacher, to be as objective as you can be, to test on what you've actually taught, and to try to create tests that are interesting and are reflective of actual knowledge. Now, it's true, and we'll get to this. Testing is awful mostly. Teachers are awful mostly. The guidance they get from the union, from the teacher board, from the federal government, from the state government is awful. So our educational system is awful.
Which is the same basic principle that capitalism is built on.
Yes. And I do think a good educational system, now we have a lousy one, but to the extent that we actually graded people properly, encouraged them to think for themselves, graded them on their creativity, but creativity in reality, not creativity of fantasy. We graded them, we taught them how to think, and then we told them that they're not equal and that they should respect their grade and respect where they are able and respect themselves and work hard and try hard, but they're never going to be equal, no matter what they do. Then yeah, we would have a much better world. We would not have people like this guy, and we would probably have a much freer, much more capitalist world. The problem is educational system sucks at doing exactly that. We grade arbitrarily. We grade just because we have to grade, and we don't teach. And we certainly don't teach how to think. I mean, he gives some really good example of this.
In this video, I'm going to explore the ways that our education system lays the groundwork for capitalism through grading, and hopefully present a persuasive argument for abolishing grading as a whole. Before I get into my arguments...
As a whole, he's not saying abolish bad grading, I don't know, standardized test grading or some other form of grading. He's saying Abolish grading all the way. All grading. There shouldn't be grading. Because it teaches people that they're not equal.
I just want to take a second and hold some space for anyone who feels dismayed at the idea of abolishing grading.
Okay, I need some space. I need some quiet because I need my teddy bear. I'm really losing it. I've got this. I've just been triggered. This is microaggression. I blame him for microaggressing me.
If this is you, I imagine you'd probably like to feel recognized for all the hard work that you've put into getting the grades you've gotten.
It's not just hard work. It's a hard work, sure. I want to be recognized for the hard work. I also want to be recognized for my ability. Wherever that abilities come from. I want to be recognized for my intelligence. I want to be recognized for my talents. I want to be recognized for my hard work and all of those things. And that's the world in which we live. That's justice, by the way. Grading, properly done, is justice. We'll talk about justice in a future show. It's about treating people the way they deserve. Somebody who aces the test does not deserve the same grade as somebody who completely screws up on the test.
And yeah, I want to acknowledge that work. I'm guessing it was probably exhausting. My goal is not to deny your achievements, but to see if we can acknowledge achievements in an inclusive way that doesn't elevate anyone over anyone else.
Let's get rid of the word inclusive. Can we just get rid of that word? It's grading now. It's getting so absurd and it's so, he is so condescending. Oh yeah, I know you did a lot of hard work. But I want you to be inclusive and share with those people who didn't do the hard work. And we can find a way to recognize you in a different way other than grading. So don't feel too bad, because we're going to be
Part 1. Is grading necessary? Why do we grade? Sit with that question for a moment. Now, you might be thinking, if we didn't grade, then students wouldn't do anything. And yeah, I would agree. Under our current system, if you give an assignment that isn't graded, students probably aren't going to do it. Why not? Well, because they've got other work to do that is being graded, and they don't want to spend their precious free time working on something that they've been implicitly told by the system isn't important. That isn't students being lazy. It's them understanding how the system they exist within works and using their energy efficiently within that system.
Really? Is that what it is? So if you're not working hard, if you're not exerting, if you're not paying attention, if you're not getting, this is working within the system. This is being efficient. Where does he even get off saying that? I mean, it is an absurd way of looking at the world. Some people work hard. Some people make an effort. And some people don't. And yes, they make an effort partially because they know they're going to be graded on that effort. So incentives work. Incentives do result, positive incentives do result in people doing more work. Negative incentives do have results as well. So you can construct incentives. But this idea that grading, and again, there's stupid grading, there's too much grading, there's irrational grading. I'm talking about proper grading. Is there to reflect the fact that you did hard work, that you know the material, that you're on the right path, that you're closer to the truth. And for those who haven't, that you either didn't do the work, or you're not close to truth, or you just don't know the material. For whatever reason, you don't know it. How can that be wrong? How can it be wrong to give people information about their level of knowledge? And yet, the thing that's wrong about it, the essential thing that's wrong about it, is what he said right in the beginning. It's that it doesn't treat people as equals. And that's what offends him. Because equality is the new religion. One of the issues that I didn't have time to address on this show that I did on television is this idea of racial equality, economic equality, racial economic equality, the wealth gap, the inequality. I mean, why is equality the standard? I understand that there's frustration that certain groups have not done as well economically, and we should look and see if there's discrimination, if there's something in the structure, something in the laws, as there was in the past, that holds them back. And maybe there is, and I think there is. Licensing laws, minimum wages, and a bunch of other things hold people back. But it cannot be that the goal is equality. Equality, as I've explained many, many times, is death. Equality is destruction. Equality is the Khmer Rouge, what the Khmer Rouge did in Cambodia. Equality is chopping down the tall poppies. It's getting rid of the able, or telling the able, tone it down. Don't do so well in math. And you think if we don't grade, that makes us equal? No. It just makes some people think they know stuff that they don't know. It makes them not get objective, important information that they need about their own knowledge, about their own ability, about their own qualifications.
Do we honestly think that if we collectively stopped grading, students would just come to school and do nothing all day?
Well, not necessarily. They could sit around and sing Kumbaya. They could maybe even study. My guess is that some of the better students would really study hard no matter what happened. But some people are motivated by the grades, and the grades provide them with insight, input into getting better. And some kids would absolutely do nothing.
I mean, our behaviors are shaped by our environments.
Really? Not by ourselves, by environments. You know, this goes back to, and I keep coming back to this because I think it's a powerful tool. It goes back to this idea of Rousseau, that if we just create the right environment, if we get rid of all the civilizing factors like grading, then people are good, people are wonderful, there's no crime. That's why if we get rid of the police, crime would drop. If we get rid of grading, students would excel. These people have no concept of human nature. They have no concept of what it actually takes to succeed. And of course, they have no concept of free will and the fact that we're not just products of the environment, that we have different choices. And as a consequence of making different choices, we will do different things. We will achieve different things.
I was in a theater group in high school, and I worked hard at that even though I wasn't being graded on it. I worked hard because I cared about the stuff that I was learning. I wanted to contribute to the group's success, and I don't know, it just kind of was what you did. It was the norm.
Oh, so you're just following the norm. That's why I invested a lot in the theater. I think it was because the theater was a value to him. He made a choice. But if he'd done some other club that he hated, would he have invested the same amount of time? Same amount of effort because it was the norm? No. Not even a collectivist like him would do it because it was the norm. Theater was something he loved and enjoyed, and he invested in. There could have been a chess club where he wouldn't have, because it didn't interest him. So students will come to school, and they'll go, I like math, I'll invest in that. I don't like English. Don't like history. Don't like any of the other stuff. I'm not going to invest in that. There's no grading anyway. They're going to pass me anyway. Everybody gets an A. What difference does it make? I mean, this idea that if we just take away the institutions, if we just take away the grading, we're all going to be happy-go-lucky, positive, productive, rational people who go out and do the things because we know it's good for us long-term, is just bogus. And it's not because I have a negative view of human nature. It's because I have a realistic view of what children who are not fully rational, who don't have a fully developed frontal cortex, they don't know anything. They don't know what's important and what's not. They don't know what they should study and what they shouldn't. They need guidance. That's the role of adults, is to provide that guidance. And grading is one way in which we provide that input. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it's one way in which you do it.
From this example, we can see that external rewards are not the only way to motivate students.
Nobody's ever said they're the only way. It's just one of the ways. Grading is just one way. It's not the only way. Shouldn't be the only way. And that's a problem in our educational system today, that in many schools it probably has become the only way. And in that sense, yeah, we should probably test less standardized like tests. Okay, let's talk about testing less. It's like police. I believe in police reform. Do I believe in abolishing them? No, that's insane. I believe in grade reform. Do I believe in abolishing grading? No, that's insane.
And they're not the only way to motivate workers either.
No, and any successful company knows that. So again, this is the Marxism, the Richard Wolff. I mean, he gets this whole thesis from Richard Wolff. Richard Wolff, I guess, wrote a paper way back about grading as being degrading, and this whole thing about employees. Who exactly only uses salary to motivate employees? I mean, no successful company does. There are lots of ways in which we try to motivate employees in every company.
Another answer to the question of why do we grade is to provide students with feedback on their work.
Yeah.
And yeah, some form of feedback is necessary. More on that later. But the problem comes when grades are treated as an objective measure of the quality of students' work.
But in some places it clearly is, and if you're a good teacher, it clearly is.
When a system that claims to be objective consistently ranks the accomplishments of some groups of people above others, like as can be seen in the case of the racial achievement gap, the message that sends is that some people are just naturally better than others.
But some people are naturally better than others. And the only reason why are you bringing race into this? What does race have to do with this? And if there's an achievement gap, it's between individuals who happen maybe to be of a particular race or another. And maybe the racial achievement gap has more to do with the quality of education they're getting, which is lousy in the inner cities because it's government schools. And if you got to get rid of those government schools, by the way, in a private school market, if you want to start a school with no grading, I'm sure there are private schools with no grading. I think University of California, Santa Cruz, for years, maybe still, had no grading. Fine. In a competitive market, let's see if that produces the best results. But first, let's get rid of those government schools so we can actually elevate the quality of education that kids get, including the education kids get in the inner city, or particular the quality of education they get in the inner city, because in the inner city, they're not even getting an education. What the government does to them is criminal in terms of the pseudo-education they get. It's more like holding pens than it is like a school. And that's where you get that achievement gap. So yeah, let's bring some competition in.
And if you don't believe me, consider the fact that the creator of the SAT test, Carl Brigham, was an outspoken eugenicist and thought that we needed to stop immigration in order to prevent the deterioration of American intelligence.
Now, there's so many logical fallacies there. I mean, okay, he was a racist. He developed a test. Does that make all tests racist? Really? I mean, where do these guys come off thinking that they're making rational arguments by giving you one example and not linking it to the quality of the test at all?
In practice, grading ends up being highly subjective. Who gets to design the curriculum, grading
Experts.
rubrics, and make judgment calls on open-ended questions are all very important.
Experts are supposed to be objective. Many of them are, I suspect.
Okay, so under our current system, who does get that power? Well, teachers, administrators, government officials, and rich people.
Well, that's a problem, because administrators, government officials, and rich people, for that matter, shouldn't have a say in this. Right? And certainly, rich people government officials and administrators should have any say in this. Right? Rich people, they want to send their kids to private school and they want to influence the private school, fine. But the problem is we're not testing based on expertise. We're not giving teachers power. We're not giving teachers the freedom to design objective curriculum and objective teaching and testing methodologies. We're bringing it all from the top down based on government officials. Now, he does one of these whispering things again here.
If that last one seems out of place, I'd encourage you to look at how much influence Betsy DeVos had over our education system even before she became Secretary of Education.
Spoiler alert, she spent tens of millions of dollars trying to dismantle the institution of public education and replace it with for-profit schools.
I wish that were right, but even if that is true, how much influence has she had? Very little, because as far as I know, government schools are still around. None have been dismantled. As an institution, it certainly hasn't been dismantled. And we're not seeing a massive renaissance of private schools. Maybe in the background, that would be wonderful if that were happening. But I don't see where Betsy DeVos might have tried to have influence, but where she actually had influence. I wish.
The people who are deciding what standards students will be graded against are largely old, white, middle, or upper class, neurotypical, able-bodied, and
Neurotypical. Is that that's a new one for me. I don't know if it's a new one for you guys. What is neurotypical? Neurotypical. I don't know what that is. Anyway, it turns out that if you're an expert, you're probably older. Why race comes up again, I don't know. I guess if people from other races designed the test, there would be different tests. But race is everywhere, and sexual orientation is everywhere. As if you're gay, the test is going to be different. I guess the math is different, or the history is different. And if you're trans or one of the other 92 sexes, who knows what kind of test you would come up with? So I guess basically what he's signaling here is that truth depends on your age, your race, your gender. Now there are a lot of bad teachers, and there's a lot of bad stuff being taught. And certainly I'm against bureaucracies dictating testing and all of that. But this collectivism, before he says you're shaped by your environment, now he suggested you're shaped by your genes or some combination of the two. But the one thing he's not is shaped by your own choices or shaped by reality, by truth. There's no truth seeking. There's no reason. There's no rationality. This left is sick. It's a sick mentality.
And cisgender. So
if you're cisgender, then you're going to do math differently than I guess one of the other genders, whatever the hell that is. So gay people do math differently than straight people? They do history differently? Again, you're either seeking the truth or you're not seeking the truth. That's the only standard. You're either being objective or you're not being objective. That's the only standard, but that's what they don't believe in. Except they believe in what they call their truth. They believe that they're objective. He believes that grading is bad. Absolutely. That's not subjective. That's not up to interpretation. That's right. Everybody else's everybody else cannot be rational, cannot be truth-seeking, cannot be right. But they can by denying all that.
Things they decide are important for students to be graded on often have very little overlap with their lives.
They're not supposed to have overlap with your life. The whole point of education is to teach you things that allow you to shape your life in the future. You don't teach down. You teach up. It's not about what their current circumstances are. It's about educating, teaching, knowledge that will be incredibly valuable for their future. And that's what you're testing on. That's what you're teaching to.
Like, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell became a meme because it was a shared experience of how disconnected what we learn in schools is from the realities of our daily lives.
Seriously? Biology is disconnected from the reality of our daily lives? As we have to evaluate something like COVID, as we have to evaluate vaccines, as individuals, we get bombarded with data about the world. Shouldn't we know something? Something about biology? Yeah, I can't say right now what I'm going to do with it. And if you don't know biology, if you don't present biology to students, if you don't teach them biology, those who are really passionate about it, how are they going to discover their passion? So we should teach them only what's relevant to their current life and their current circumstance and their current position. And how do you get people to improve themselves? How do you get people to better themselves? How do you get people to rise from where they are today?
We need to radically broaden our definition of learning. Take, for instance, how we're taught to express our thoughts through essays in school. Forcing everyone to write an essay and then grading those essays based on how well they conform to traditional grammar structures is telling kids that some ways of expressing oneself are more legitimate and valuable than others.
Yes, they are. Notice he uses complete sentences. His grammar's pretty good. As a consequence of him using complete sentences and having good grammar, we actually understand what he's saying. Isn't that amazing? That's the beauty of grammar. It's the beauty of using concepts that you define, using grammatical principles that help convey information in a structured, logical way so that your audience, the people you're trying to communicate with, know what you're saying. And you want to teach people not to do that. And then, when they can't form a sentence, when they can't communicate their ideas, and therefore cannot get a job or get a very low-paying job where they don't need to communicate ideas, then you're shocked by the difference in wages, by the inequality you create by pandering to the complete subjectivism of the idea that you can communicate any way you want. Everything's equal. There's no better, there's no worse way of communicating. You can just grunt. You can just be an animal and just grunt. That's okay. No, grammar is important. Traditional grammar evolved to where it is today because it optimizes communication. It optimizes our ability to understand one another. What a concept. All right. Let's see. Okay.
Not only does that end up disproportionately harming marginalized students, but by forcing everyone into a certain mold, it robs us all of our individuality and creativity.
No, it's not individuality and creativity to express yourself in a way that does not communicate what you're trying to express. That's just training people to be bad communicators. And they will suffer the consequence of that throughout their life, their career, whatever they choose to do with their lives.
The class that I learned most from in high school was an English class where my teacher showed me that alternative ways of expressing oneself were valid. We had a project where we had to do some kind of presentation or artwork to represent where we feel most relaxed, or our free and easy space.
This is so
I ended up making
ridiculous.
a video about how my free and easy space is inside my brain because I don't have to think in words and I can just kind of bounce rapidly from thought to thought.
I don't even know what to say about that. We're just going to bounce rapidly from thought to thought, not engage. God forbid you study logic or actually think about thinking. That's all. That would prevent you from bouncing those thoughts around. It's ludicrous. There's no meaning here. There's no substance to what he's saying. Yes, you had fun as a kid doing whatever you felt like doing, but you learned nothing. Even though you claim you might have learned something about yourself, you learned nothing.
And that was a really authentic form of learning. I learned a lot about myself through that project. And every work of art and presentation that students shared cultivated a mutual understanding of one another that I found far more valuable to my life than whatever random essay I had to write. And that teacher really de-emphasized grading for that assignment.
It seems like that teacher had a profound influence on this kid, and he's still suffering the consequences to this day.
I think basically everyone got an A. I know I personally cared a lot less about my grade for that project than I did the feelings of exploration,
there was nothing
community,
you were learning.
and
There was no
self-expression it provided me with.
Just emotion.
Part 2.
All right.
Hello, Internet.
Yep.
Today we're talking about...
That's enough. That's enough. I can't take any more of this. There's some good stuff afterwards. Whoops. Let me just close this. There's some good stuff afterwards that criticizes grading for good reasons. That is, not teaching kids to think, not teaching kids to to understand, but grading that is a result of memorization. Grading the result of pure memorization and nothing to do with actual thinking. Those are the better parts. That was a better part. But then the rest of it is just awful. Just awful. Anyway, this is the world in which we live. We live in a world in which subjectivism, in which there are no standards, in which people can be taken seriously when they claim that what they want is to make everybody equal, treat everybody equally. I don't want to treat everybody equally. The mass murderer doesn't get treated the same as somebody I love. Just ain't happening. Ain't happening. All right, let's go through these. I've got one $20 super chat question, and then we've got a bunch of non-$20 super chat. Actually, I've got more than one because I've got to catch up with an old one. So let me just do this. Hi, Yaron. Just wanted to correct you earlier. No one had Trump at 85-15 in 2016. It was 65-35 at worst. I made a 81-19 bet on Trump the Monday after, Pussygate turned 1.9K into 8K on Precinct 8. I think Biden 2020 though. Interesting, and that was pretty early, right? So I again, maybe my memory's fading again. It would be interesting to go back and look at what the odds were, like today, 3 weeks before the election. So I'd be curious. Maybe it wasn't David who asked this question. It was Oeti. Maybe Oeti, what the odds were like 3 weeks before the election. I think they were closer than the 81-19, but I guess I could be wrong. All right, but I'm glad. I'm not glad, but the fact that you're Biden for this round, I think that's right, in spite of everything. Let's see. I had one other $20 question I promised to answer. Any economist you recommend reading? I often hear Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell, von Mises, Hayek, Kutzner, Adam Smith, and David Ricardo, Hazlitt, Reisman, Callahan. I don't know Callahan. All of those are good. I would add Say. Georges Baptiste Say. Bastiat wasn't an economist, but I would add Bastiat to this. He was close. But there are tons of good economists. I mean, there are a lot of good economists. I've recommended modern day. There are a lot of economists out of George Mason that are worth reading. I don't agree with everything they say. Marginal Revolution is a website. I like John Cochrane. Again, I don't agree with everything, but I like John Cochrane from University of. I guess he's at Hoover Institute now. But the ones you list are the classics. I don't see Menger on here. Definitely should have Menger. Von Bovic, which was a student of Menger and a teacher of Mises, should be added. And I'm sure there are others. Economics in One's Lesson by, oh my God, I can't believe, Hazlitt. Thank you. Hazlitt is another guy. So I would definitely read Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. Hernando de Soto is somebody worth reading. Those are a few, but that's a long list. You could spend a long time going over that list and getting it all done. Wesley Lopez writes, you claim that Hispanics were alienated by Republicans' supposed racism, but Trump won a higher share of Hispanic vote than Romney. Hispanics generally care more about economic issues rather than race. I think I said that not their supposed racism, but their anti-immigration stance. And you can see it in the evolution of the Hispanic vote in California. When California turned rabidly anti-immigrant and with I forget the name of the prop, there was a famous proposition, and then with really going after illegal aliens, illegal immigrants, and so on. California Latinos who had voted Republican started voting Democratic, and the Democratic Party became dominant among Latinos in California. Whereas before, they were still probably a majority, but they weren't dominant the way they are today. I mean, the Republican Party today in California is non-existent. Even though they got a lot of what they wanted early on, I'd say because they got what they wanted early on. Because they became so anti-immigration, and I think that's a big part of why Hispanics are Democrats. If Hispanics cared about economic issues, then they would vote Republican. I don't think they care about economic issues. I think they care about issues related to immigration. Yes, Trump won a higher share of Hispanic vote because he got more Hispanics to come out to vote, because he tapped into a whole segment of Hispanics that shared with whites and others their frustration at the system and wanted somebody to come in and drain the swamp. And he got them excited, and he got them to vote for him. It'd be interesting to see how much of those Hispanics he gets this time. But yeah, it's not the case that he got it because they care more about economics and Obama was better economically for Hispanics than Romney was. I think it has much more to do with the alienation they feel over immigration. And again, Trump brought more of them out, still minority, because he got them excited. See, Hispanics don't vote much. Immigrants generally, the voting, the percent of Hispanics who vote is relatively low. And what Trump did is he increased the percentage of Hispanics who voted because he got some subsection of Hispanics excited about his drain the swamp, help the working class, rhetoric. And again, so no, I definitely think that the more anti-immigrant, the more anti-immigration, and the more racist Republicans appear, the less of the Hispanic vote they're going to get. Yeah, I know lots of Hispanics don't support illegal immigration, but they also don't support the demonization of immigrants that Republicans. I mean, when you see, the Republican debates and every candidate is trying to outdo the other candidates on who can be more anti-immigration generally, particularly illegal, but generally immigration, that alienates immigrants. It just does. So don't be surprised when they don't vote for you. All right, some quick ones. In regards to the short video about RIV limit, in your opinion, how much would the FDA have affected the increased price of the drug? Hard to tell, but the FDA definitely affects it. It restrains competition, and it requires competitors too much time before they can enter, a lot of time before they can enter, so it allows these companies to hold prices high while the competition is trying to enter, and then they reduce the price when the competition is there. So the FDA is definitely a factor, but as I explained at the time, it's much more about the structure of the whole industry, which is dictated by regulation, but it's the structure about the structure of a pharmaceutical to pharmacy industry. This has been happening for a long time in Australia. Forms always have little checkboxes to tick if you are Aboriginal. Yeah, I mean, yes, now people are going out of their way to get a sense of your race and your sexuality. It's none of their business, is my view. Richard Wolff seems like he believes his own BS. How does a grown man get this consistently evil? Would you ever debate him? He is completely evasive. He's completely irrational and evasive. And that's how you get this evil. You evade and you evade and you evade, and it builds and builds and it builds. And you can't face the evasion because you build a whole rationalization around this evasion to justify it. So it's impossible for you to undo all the damage that you have done, and you just get deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole. And that's what Richard Wolff does. Would I debate him? Maybe. Out of Leonard's 8 great plays, which is your favorite? My personal favorite is Monavana. I don't think that is the best play. I agree with Leonard. I think probably Othello is the best play. But it is my favorite play in terms of the one that I enjoy the most. I love also the plays of the Danish guy. Is it Danish or Norwegian? Anyway, the Scandinavian guy. These names just, they're out of my head. Somebody will tell me on the chat who I'm talking about. It's ridiculous. So those are my favorite. What's your view of Milton Friedman's defense of corporate profits recently under debate? Does it do more harm than good to justify profits on the ground of benefit to the public? Ibsen, thank you. Ibsen. Ibsen is fantastic. I love Ibsen plays. I really enjoy them. Again, maybe Shakespeare's better, but I love Ibsen. I love Shakespeare too, by the way. But I think Monavana is my favorite in terms of that. I don't think it's beneficial to defend capitalism, or as beneficial to defend capitalism, based on the public welfare. I think the right way to approach defending capitalism is defending it morally and practically, to show that the two are connected. Oh, Cyrano. Shit, I forgot Cyrano. Sorry. Cyrano is my favorite. So Cyrano and then Monavana, because I remember it was 7 great plays or 8 great plays and then turned into 9 great plays. But Cyrano originally wasn't in the first course he did about the great plays. So he added it later. So I'm thinking of the course. But yes, Cyrano would be my favorite, and then Monavana. Any science fiction books or series? Well, no, you recommend. I mean, I used to like Robert Heinlein when I was in my 20s. I don't know if I'd like it today. There's a lot of good science fiction, but it's hard for me if you ask me these things because I don't retain anything. I just saw it yesterday. I was tidying my books. There's another science fiction that I really liked, but it's not in my cognition. But generally, literature is not my strong suit. Which of you? Oh, we did Milton Friedman. So I think you have to do them all and the practical to have a real impact. What do you think if Trump loses? Do you think he will disappear from public life, or could he still be a factor in the fascistic far right? I think he'll still try to, needle stuff, but I think he'll lose his power. I think he'll lose his power in a big way. And then you have to look at who are the influences, who are the big influences, who are going to influence the right in the future, and how does it move? I mean, Asimov, how does it move the country? In terms of, Ender's Game is the book I was thinking of. Ender's Game is really interesting. I enjoyed it. And Asimov is brilliant. So there's a lot of good science fiction, I think. So I think he disappears. He won't disappear on purpose because he needs the limelight. But I don't think his influence will wane. I think you said you disagree with Matt Ridley on intellectual property. Can you expand on it? So, yeah, I mean, I believe in intellectual property. I believe in some sense intellectual property is the source of all property. If you understand that our ability to reason is what makes land valuable, because it's our ability to reason that creates agriculture that makes it possible for us to cultivate the land or to build a building on the land or to do anything with the land, then you understand that it's fundamentally up here. It's fundamentally the reasoning capacity from which property rights come from. And intellectual property rights are a form of that. They're a form of property because they are a product of your mind that has material application. So you don't have a property over the idea. You have a property over the physical manifestation of that idea. For example, a book. You don't have copyright over the tenets of objectivism, but you have a copyright over the book that has the tenets of objectivism in it. Whereas Matt Ridley seems to suggest that intellectual property reduces innovation. I think that the overwhelming evidence is the other way around, that you reach too many of the anti-intellectual property libertarians. The overwhelming evidence is that intellectual property enhances innovation, and Adam Mossoff is the world expert on this. You can follow him on Twitter, and I've had him on the show in the past, and I'll try to have him on the show in the future. How does the pressure on companies to be good corporate citizens affect their rationality? It affects it because to the extent that they pander it, they have to go against their own judgment. They have to go against what they think is right. There's certain areas in which they can't think. It reduces the scope of their thinking. They have to behave themselves, and that reduces the application of rationality. It eliminates areas from which they apply their rationality, which is destructive for their own profitability, for their own productivity, for their own innovation, and for their own ability to create value. So somebody says about the video we just watched, I think he wants a system in which everyone gets to feel equally proud of themselves regardless of their choices. Yes, he wants egalitarianism, where no matter what we achieve, no matter what we know, no matter what we do, we're treated as equals. Yaron, you seem vexed by the absolute madness this boy is preaching. Imagine being inundated with it daily as a millennium. This is information warfare intended to disrupt and confuse. No, I actually think somebody like this actually believes it. They actually believe this stuff in a dishonest way, but it's actually his system of belief. And I feel sorry for you if you're inundated with this. And hopefully the videos that I do are an attempt, at least, to provide you with some intellectual ammunition to help stay sane. Stay sane. All right. We'll call it a night. Thank you, everybody. You can still support the show with Super Chat, but without a question. You can support the show on youronbookshow.com/support. If I do provide you with intellectual ammunition, please, value for value, that's what I ask for. And I really, really appreciate those of you who actually do provide that value. You can do as low as $2 a month and support what we're doing here. And the more of you do it, the more reason I have to do the show, the more I'm convinced that I'm having an impact and that this show is of value. So you can do it there. You can do it on Subscribestar, on Patreon, and on Locals. And of course, don't forget before you leave, if you haven't yet, to press the like button and share the videos, the short videos that we produce. Please share them and get them out there into the world. Thanks, everybody. See you on Wednesday.